Hi, kindergartners. Today I'm going to read you the story, Wangari's Trees of Peace, a true story from Africa by Jeanette Winter. And remember, this is a story about a changemaker, someone who saw a problem, realized it was a big problem for a lot of people, and went about trying to solve it. She worked by herself, but then she realized it's such a big problem, I'm going to need some help. And she found a lot of people to help her solve the problem. So, Wangari's Trees of Peace. There's a quote from her in the very beginning, before the story starts. The earth was naked. For me, the mission was to try to cover it with green. Wangari Maathai. Wangari lives under the umbrella of green trees in the shadow of Mount Kenya in Africa. She watches the birds in the forest where she and her mother go to gather firewood for cooking. And she helps harvest the sweet potatoes, sugarcane, and maize from the rich soil. Wangari shines in school, and when she grows tall, like the trees in the forest, she wins a scholarship to study in America. Six years later, her studies over, Wangari returns to her Kenya home and sees a change. What has happened? She wonders. Where are the trees? Wangari sees women bent from hauling firewood miles and miles from home. She sees the barren land where no crops grow. And where are the birds? Thousands of trees have been cut down to make room for buildings, but no one planted new trees to take their place. Will all of Kenya become a desert? She wonders as her tears fall. Wangari thinks about the barren land. I can begin to replace some of the lost trees. Here in my own backyard, one at a time. She starts by planting 9 seedlings. Watching the seedlings take root gives Wangari the idea to plant more, to start a farm for baby trees, a nursery. In an open space, she plants row after row of the tiny trees. Next, Wangari convinces village women that planting trees is a good thing. She gives each one of them a seedling. Our lives will be better when we have trees again, she said. You'll see, we are planting the seeds of hope. I wonder what that means. They're planting trees, but they're planting the seeds of hope. Do you remember how she said that she thought that their lives would be better if they planted trees? So planting seeds of hope means they are hopeful that this change that she is helping to make will make the world a better place. Let's see what happens. The women spread out over the village, planting tiny trees in long rows, like a green belt spreading across the land. The government men laugh. Ha ha ha! Women can't do this, they say. It takes trained foresters to plant trees. The women ignore their laughter, and they keep planting. Wangari pays them a small amount for each seedling still living after 3 months. Their first earnings ever. So earnings means the money that you get from doing a job. So Wangari Maathai said, if the women in the village who planted the trees could keep them alive for at least 3 months, she would pay them money. Because it takes a lot of care in those first few months for the trees to get established, those seedlings to take root and become strong enough to keep growing. So she wants to pay people for their effort, especially women, because in Kenya at this time, a lot of women in a village never earned any money. They worked and worked and worked, but they didn't earn money for it. Word travels like the wind rustling through leaves about the green returning to Wangari's village. Some other women in other villages and towns and cities in Kenya are planting long rows of seedlings too. So there's Wangari's village down the hill from where they're planting the seedlings. And then another village and a bigger town with bigger buildings and another village. People planting trees all over the very large country of Kenya. All because Wangari Maathai had an idea about how to make a change that would help everyone. But the cutting continues. Wangari stands tall as an oak to protect the old trees that are still remaining. We need a park more than we need an office tower. Think about that. Why do you think people might need parks? Why do you think people need office towers? It's a good question. The government men disagree with her. Wangari blocks their way, so they hit her with clubs. They call her a troublemaker, and they put her in jail. And she still stands tall. Right is right, even if you're alone. So even though people in the government, soldiers and police officers, were telling her she was wrong to say, don't cut the trees, she really felt like she was right. So even though she was breaking the law and she went to jail, she knew that her country had to have more trees. But Wangari is not alone. Talk of the trees spreads all over Africa, like the ripples in Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria is a very big lake that touches a lot of countries in Africa, like Kenya and Tanzania. More women hear the talk and plant even more seedlings in longer rows and rows and rows. The seedlings take root and grow tall until there are over 30 million trees where there were none. 0. The umbrella of trees, the umbrella of green in Kenya returns. Women walk, their backs straight, for now they can gather firewood closer to home. They don't have to walk so far to get that wood for their cooking fires. And now, if you were to climb to the very top of Mount Kenya today, you would see the millions of trees growing below you and the green that Wangari Maathai brought back to Africa. So she is a change maker, and something really important happened to her. So she began to plant those trees like we saw in the story. and she began to get other people from her village and then other people all over the country to plant more trees. It was called the Green Belt Movement. So that green belt, like a belt you might wear on a dress or on your pants, was a green line of trees, right? And in 2004, which is about 16 years ago, she was awarded a very important prize called the Nobel Peace Prize. And the Nobel Peace Prize is given every year to somebody who's a change maker, somebody who does something really important to create change that will help a lot of people, like Wangari Maathai in Kenya.